All right, let's talk about the Odyssey. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Fibs Reacts, and in today's video, we are going to be talking a little bit about this latest trailer we have received for Chris Nolan's upcoming movie, The Odyssey. Now, for those of you who may not know, I am a huge fan of Chris Nolan and his movies. I just think that as a filmmaker, he is just very bold, and he makes films that are very exciting, and the writing and assembly of all of his movies is always just really captivating and fascinating. And I think as a writer, as a director, as a filmmaker in general, he's just very, very talented, especially for a guy who didn't go to film school. So Chris Nolan's upcoming movie is of course going to be an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey, which for those of you who may not know is kind of this epic hero's tale, very much in the realm of fantasy, of course with the inclusion of things like the Cyclops. But the main topic of discussion for today is the latest trailer that was released for this film, which caused a bit of controversy online for a number of reasons that we will get into. And I gotta say, man, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little worried about this one. Now, the last trailer we got, which I guess was kind of the teaser, I thought was really good, and it made me really excited for the movie. This trailer, however, I don't know, something doesn't seem right. So first thing I want to discuss is the cast. So of course we have Matt Damon as the lead, playing Odysseus, which I do think Matt Damon is a very strong actor. He's one of my favorite actors. And from what I've seen in the trailers, I think he's going to do a great job with the role. And it would take too much time for me to list everyone else in this cast because it is so star-studded. This cast is absolutely stacked. And I think that might be part of the problem. Now listen, I know that Nolan is kind of known for, kind of having this reputation of reusing actors that he has worked with in his past projects, which of course there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like in any other workforce, if you work with someone who, was great to get along with and you collaborated well with, naturally you're going to want to rehire him and you're going to want to work with him again. For example, Nolan's worked with Matt Damon before, like in Oppenheimer. He's worked with Robert Pattinson in Tenet. He's worked with Anne Hathaway in Interstellar and The Dark Knight Rises. So we do see, some familiar faces, especially from past Nolan films. But we are also getting other actors who may not have necessarily worked on Nolan films, but they are, very popular, especially nowadays. People like Tom Holland and Zendaya and John Bernthal, which nothing against these actors in particular and their abilities. My main concern is that because so many of these actors and actresses are so well known, I feel like it's gonna kind of take me out of the story. I think a great way to explain kind of what I'm talking about is in discussing Star Wars. With each trilogy that they came out with for Star Wars, they really made a point to cast actors and actresses who weren't necessarily known or well familiar to the public, and that's what kind of made it work, and you were able to more easily be kind of immersed in this different universe, in this different world. So like for the first trilogy, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher weren't exactly like the popular actors of the time. In the prequels, Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, even Natalie Portman, not necessarily known actors. Now, of course, you did have popular actors used here and there in the Star Wars movies, like Sir Alec Guinness in the original trilogy, or Liam Neeson or Samuel L. Jackson in the prequels. And even in the sequel trilogy, they made a point to cast actors who weren't necessarily well known. I think a great example is Rey, because for those who may not know, Jennifer Lawrence was one of the top casting choices for Rey, and I am so glad that they did not pick Jennifer Lawrence for the role of Rey. Again, nothing against Jennifer Lawrence as an actress, because I do think she is a very strong actress, but having Jennifer Lawrence in that role, I think would have taken me out of the story. and I think a lot of other people as well. Because when they would look at Rey, they wouldn't see Rey, they would see, oh, that's Jennifer Lawrence. But because they decided to cast Daisy Ridley instead, who basically really hadn't done anything before Star Wars, it added to the mystery that was Rey's character. So when I looked at Rey, I didn't see Daisy Ridley because I didn't really know Daisy. So I saw the character of Rey. So all of that to say, I think that's where Star Wars really made the smart choice in their casting for their films, because it kind of helped in transporting you to this entire different world. But with the Odyssey, because there are so many people in this cast that are well known, it almost comes across as like more of like an SNL sketch, because it's like every single actor that we see on the screen is somebody we know, which again is nothing against these actors' ability. Like, I think for the most part, a lot of them are very strong actors, but it's just, I'm afraid that when I go to see the movie, I'm more gonna see the actors than the characters that they're playing, and that's gonna just take me out of the story. Next thing I wanted to talk about was the dialogue, mainly in the fact that a lot of the writing does not sound necessarily, I guess, regal, for lack of a better term. It doesn't sound like something that was written in ancient Greece. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that, you know, everyone in the cast needs to learn Greek and that needs to be the entire movie. But what I am saying is I don't necessarily think the use of words like dad and daddy were popular back in ancient Greece. I don't think Homer was using words like dad and daddy when he originally wrote the Odyssey. And it sounds like a nitpick. It sounds, you know, very specific, but it does, again, just kind of take you out of the story. So when Robert Pattinson said,
"You're pining for a daddy you didn't even know."
Daddy, chill.
Like, I feel like there could have been a better way to word that. Like, say something like, "You're a foolish boy. Your father will never return." Or something like that. Like, something that kind of has more weight, kind of sounds more of that time. Even something as little as changing daddy to father, I think would have worked so much better. And then you go to Tom Holland's response.
"My dad is coming home."
And it's like, again, I'm sure that we could have worded this better, this response better. And even that one clip in the trailer where Matt Damon seems to be leading a charge into battle, and he says, "Let's go." Let's go? Like, that's something that NFL players say before a game. Like, that's not like, why didn't he say like onward or forward into war? Like, I don't know, like something again that sounds more of that time. Saying "let's go" sounds way too modern. And again, especially for Nolan, who I think, in my opinion, is really strong in his writing, specifically in his movies. You know, if you're going to be adapting a piece of literature that is this old, even if you are going to, you know, try to adapt it to a modern audience, that doesn't mean use slang of a modern audience. I also wanted to talk about the accents. Why does everyone sound like they're from America? Like, even the English actors that you have in this film, like Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland, why are we making them do American accents? It would sound so much better if they just talked normal. Like, if they just talked in their normal British accents, I feel like that would have sounded so much better. Because Tom Holland speaking in his American accent, it's too much like Peter Parker, and that's like all I can think about. So again, I think if you just had everyone kind of across the board, you know, have some kind of regal / British accent, I think that would, again, just kind of help better immerse us as the audience into the story. You know, I know a lot of people, you know, had their criticism when, you know, it was announced that Nolan would be doing an adaptation of the Odyssey, but I actually thought that was a pretty good idea. I mean, especially because Nolan is known for these larger than life movies and, you know, this very grand way of storytelling, but also making his films, no matter how bizarre they might be, feel very grounded at the same time. Yeah, I thought he would, you know, bring a interesting approach to the Odyssey. But I don't know, man. Like, I gotta admit, I'm a little worried about this one. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the Odyssey trailer. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to give the video a like and subscribe. Hope to see you on the next one. And as always, catch you later.